Now, a local news update from News 13, sponsored by Quincy's Heating and Air Conditioning.
Good morning. We interrupt this programming for an important emergency briefing at the Emergency Operations Centers in Bay County.
Yeah, look, Ross has been telling us all morning long. Tropical storm Michael is down in the Caribbean, getting ready to enter the Gulf of Mexico. And Governor Rick Scott is in Bay County this morning talking about preparations. He is live at the EOC.
He is, and we want to go ahead and join that press conference, which is about to get started here any minute live.
We are about to begin the briefing here at the Bay County Emergency Operations Center. We will give you guys an update once we're finished that, and local officials and the governor are here, and we are taking our live right now.
You ready? This is the first of what will be several briefings at the Bay County Emergency Operations Center based on a very serious life safety threat of what is now Hurricane Michael. We are privileged today to have Governor Rick Scott with us. He is going to make some remarks, and this shows you the magnitude of the threat that we're facing from this storm, and we very much appreciate Governor Scott coming to the OC today, and I'd like to turn it over to you. Thank you, sir.
Good morning. I just received a briefing on Tropical Storm Michael from emergency management officials here in Bay County. Yesterday, I declared a state of emergency in 26 Florida counties across the Florida Panhandle and Big Bend in preparation for Tropical Storm Michael. This allows resources to move quickly to every community in the storm's path as we get prepared. I will be expanding this order today to include more counties. At my direction, the State Emergency Operations Center activated to a level 1 at 7 a.m., which means the State Emergency Response Team is on 24-hour activation and response. A team from FEMA is now in Florida and providing federal assistance. That includes experts from Homeland Security, the EPA, the Department of Defense, Health and Human Services, and the Army Corps of Engineers. Here's what we know right now. This morning, the National Hurricane Center issued hurricane, storm surge, and tropical storm watches along the Gulf Coast. The hurricane watch extends from the Florida-Alabama border to the Suwannee River. The tropical storm watch extends from the Suwannee River to Anna Maria Island, includes Tampa Bay. The storm surge watch extends from Navarre to Santa Rosa County, in Santa Rosa County, to Anna Maria Island, and includes Tampa Bay. As the storm approaches, the risk of tornadoes will be greater on the east side of the storm. Right now, the tropical storm Michael is nearly a hurricane and has 70-mile-per-hour winds. Think about that. Tropical storm Michael is already nearly a hurricane, is forecast to grow stronger, and could make landfall as a major Category 3 storm on Wednesday along the Gulf Coast. That means the Panhandle and Big Bend area is likely to see winds in excess of 100 miles per hour. Tallahassee is likely to see hurricane-force winds of 75 miles per hour or more. Pensacola is likely to see hurricane-force winds of 75 miles per hour or more. Tropical storm-force winds of more than 45 miles per hour could be felt in Tampa and along much of the Gulf Coast. This storm will be life-threatening and extremely dangerous. Impact from wind, rain, and storm surge could begin tomorrow night. This means in 36 hours. We are expecting 4 to 8 inches of rain, and some areas might see 12 inches of rain. This storm will bring torrential rain to most of the Panhandle and Big Bend, which means flooding will be a major issue. Tropical Storm Michael will bring dangerous storm surge to many areas, even those outside the path. The National Hurricane Center is forecasting storm surge to be between 7 and 11 feet between Indian Pass and Gulf County and the Crystal River. Let's think about storm surge for a second. When we had Ermine, there was a lady that said, oh, she was going to wait it out because she was a one-story house and she had a lot of pets. When the water got up to about here, she decided to get out. It was almost too late. Thank God there was a high-water vehicle, because if it hadn't been a high-water vehicle at the end of her street, she would not have survived. Do not take a chance on storm surge. 7 to 11 feet of storm surge is deadly. The water could be over roofs of houses. I cannot stress enough how dangerous the storm surge can be. Much of the rest of the Gulf Coast will see between 2 and 6 feet of storm surge, which is still life-threatening. If you go back to what happened with Irma last year with the storm surge we had down in the Keys, The water rushes in and the water rushes out and takes everything out of your house. Everything is taken out. It has to be really heavy for it not to be taken out. You will not survive storm surge. Like I said last night, if the storm hits in Panama City, Tampa will still see life-threatening storm surge. You cannot hide from storm surge, so get prepared and get out if an evacuation is ordered. Every family must be prepared. Remember, we can rebuild your house, but we cannot rebuild your life. Take this seriously and keep your family safe. Here's what the state is doing right now. Last night I activated 500 Florida National Guard troops for planning, logistics, and needs response. The Florida National Guard has 5,000 more Guard members available for deployment and activization. Fish and Wildlife is ready to respond. They put 40 additional law enforcement officers from outside the projected path on notice to deploy. This includes a variety of specialized equipment, including additional boats, ATVs, airboats, and four-wheel drive vehicles. The Department of Transportation is actively monitoring Tropical Storm Michael and preparing crews in anticipation of landfall. The Agency for Healthcare Administration is in contact with healthcare facilities to ensure they have the resources they need. Our state will do whatever it takes to make sure that every family and visitor in Florida is prepared for the devastating impacts from Michael. We know that storms like Michael can be absolutely devastating and life-threatening. Is that why we have to take this very seriously? Families should take this opportunity to get 3 days of food and water and make sure all medications are ready. Check on our neighbors and listen to local officials. During disasters, Floridians take care of each other. We've been through this before. For our local governments, let's make sure everyone has what they need. If we need to have evacuations, local communities need to start preparing for that now. We cannot afford to wait. Get your plan in place today. I am calling on every local government to immediately confirm that their mutual aid agreements between investor-owned utilities, municipals, and co-ops in Florida have been signed and are in place and effective, so there is no delay in power restoration for all Floridians. 2 years ago, I asked for these agreements to be put in place because mutual aid agreements are critical. They establish a relationship in advance, and if you don't have an agreement with all available utility partners now, we need to know. It's so important for the power to be restored quickly, and these agreements can make a huge difference in the response time after the storm. This must be a top priority. I also want all local governments to do a review of the resources and supplies, including generators and sandbags, and all of your sheltering abilities to make sure you have what is needed. Just like the mutual aid agreements, local governments should review their resource contracts today. The state has funded emergency management in every county. Let's all stay safe, stay alert to weather updates, and watch this storm closely. Michael can still change direction and impact any part of the state. Today is the time to get a plan. Do not put it off. There isn't any reason not to be prepared and not to keep your family safe. You can visit www.floridadisaster.org to make a plan and get information on road closures, shelters, and evacuation routes. Families can also call the State Emergency Line for assistance. You can also follow at FL-CERT or FL Gov Scott on Twitter for live updates on Tropical Storm Michael. Lo más importante que cada familia puede hacer es tener un plan. Familias deben tener por lo menos 3 días de comida, agua, medicamentos y otros suministros esenciales. Haga un plan hoy y esté preparado. I'll turn it over to the CFO, Jimmy Patronis.
Thank you, Governor. And thank you all for being here today. I'd like to give you an update of the state's activity since the storms developed this past weekend. But as is a quickly developing storm, Hurricane Michael, there's time to prepare for the impacts, but the impacts will be felt as early as Tuesday, so it's going to be incredibly important you get your prep done today. Some communities already offered free sandbags, so check with local government officials for more information. But yesterday I activated my disaster fraud action strike teams. These will be deployed in order to protect Floridians from storm-related fraud. Take advantage of our Floridians during this vulnerable time during the storm, and it's terrible what they will do. But as you are approached by anyone who does not seem to be above board, I encourage you, if it seems too good to be true, it is. Call 1-877-MY-FL-CFO. Citizens Property Insurance Company has been ramping up its own preparations to respond to claims along Florida Panhandle and the Big Bend. Approximately 44,000 citizens' policies are on the forecast for the track of the wind of this storm. Florida's insurance industry stands ready to help with any claims filed and my office will do anything possible to make sure those processes are efficient and quick for our Floridians. My office oversees the urban search and rescue teams for the state. We'll be activating those as needed. Everyone, no matter where you live, you should take time to do simple things like gathering important insurance and financial documents, snapping photos of valuables in your home inventory to make a major difference during the recovery process. Everybody has a smartphone. Those photos, email them to yourself, put them in a virtual place. Flooding is always a top concern during a storm. Residents must take care to protect their property from the devastation floods that can cause, but more importantly, take care of yourself. Hurricane Irma last year resulted in 1,800 private flood insurance claims in Florida that cost more than $5.1 billion. I can't say enough how important it is to act now to prevent any major losses. Again, any questions, go to our website, call 1-877-MyFLCFO, or go to our website, myfloridacfo.com, to download your hurricane insurance preparedness kit. Governor.
We'll be going to answer any questions anybody has.
People in low-lying coastal areas are wondering if they need to evacuate.
Mark, you want to talk about your plan?
The Bay County Board of County Commissioners will meet today. Evacuations will be one of the items that will be discussed. The timeline that we're looking at in terms of whether we have to evacuate Zone A and B, or Zone A, B, and C, which makes a big difference on how many people we're asking to move. We still have a briefing to go through, and we're looking at that timeline. And so at some point today, our citizens in Bay County will know what the timeline is for any evacuations. It is important right now that anyone who is visiting Bay County, they need to be making plans to go back home. They need to stay safe so that they can come back here and visit us again. So there'll be more information available later today about any evacuations, shelter openings, and all of the things that local government does during these events.
And with any storm, everybody's worried about bridge closures. Are those looking likely?
Yes. This is a storm. As the governor said, we're talking about 100-mile-an-hour sustained winds or higher, and so there is a high probability that our bridges will close, and that just makes it that much more important that when we talk about evacuations, people need to take that very, very seriously, because they may feel fine where they are in terms of the elevation of their home, but they could become trapped. Those bridges can close, vital services could not get to them. First responders will have trouble crossing these bridges at some point, and so just like you've seen in other communities, you can call 911, but unfortunately it's too unsafe for first responders to get to you. So the evacuation notice, when it comes, of course, we'll use Alert Bay. I want to thank the governor and CFO Petronas for that product. All the counties have it now. It's a great way for us to notify everybody that's in a certain evacuation zone to get out. Direct communication from local government, and that was enabled by the state of Florida. But that just makes it more important that people get out ahead of this. Particularly visitors leave today, and then our residents need to watch their local media and sign up for Alert Bay if they haven't signed up yet, because that's the way to get the direct information from us, from the sheriff, Board of County Commissioners. So.
Typically with the bridges, when do you typically close them with the winds?
With this particular storm, there will be law enforcement on the ground monitoring conditions on those bridges, and for instance, when tropical storm force winds get here, that is a point where bridges could close, and so that's why people need to take the evacuation orders very seriously when and if they come. But on the ground, law enforcement will monitor those bridges, and they'll close when it's unsafe to cross them. Large vehicles with a high wind profile may not be able to get across, but smaller vehicles may be able to. Law enforcement may be able to facilitate, some crossing of bridges, but people need to get out early, make a plan like Governor Scott said, and that way they don't have to worry about that. The bridges will likely close.
Okay. And people are concerned about the safety of their children. What are we talking about, school closures?
Yes, that will be announced by Bay District Schools, but obviously when we open shelters, that's going to impact schools. And so, the timeline again will be at 11th Street during the Board of County Commissioners meeting today. But, the onset of tropical storm force winds right now looks like it's going to be Tuesday evening sometime, so that certainly gives you some indication of what you're going to hear later today.
My question is for local officials. How is Bay County preparing for the storm?
That would be me too. We have been watching this like everyone else. Unfortunately, we haven't had as much time to watch it as we'd like, but we are quite prepared for this. This is the worst storm that we've seen since Ivan. We have not had an evacuation in Bay County anywhere to this magnitude since Ivan. People died during Hurricane Ivan in Bay County. It was a deadly storm. We are taking this very seriously. It's all hands on deck. The EOC will be activated. The school district, of course, is a wonderful partner. They will open as many schools as we need to. The health department will open as many special needs shelters as we need. Law enforcement will assist and handle any of the evacuations. We've got a reentry plan ready to go. So we feel good about how prepared we are, but you can never be prepared enough for these. They're bigger than all of us, and everybody just needs to really take this seriously. It's a deadly storm.
Okay.
And individuals have to take this seriously. I mean, think about it. We've got 7 to 11 feet of storm surge. So think about it. Everybody up here, they can all do everything they can to get prepared, but you got to take care of yourself. You know, they're gonna do everything they can to get everybody ready, but storm surge, rain, floods, we can see tornadoes. So you got to follow the weather. You got to listen when they say they're to evacuate. You have got to evacuate, and don't wait to the last minute, because this is in difference than a lot of the storms that we've seen since I've been governor. It's fast. This is coming very fast, and it could speed up. It could slow down. We don't know, and we don't know exactly where it's going to hit yet. Anybody else?
All right, guys, thank you so
Thanks.
much.
Thank you. We can, at our next briefing, we can cover the same.
Well, there you go. We just watched Governor Rick Scott and CFO Jimmy Petronis and also Chief Mark Bowen discussing really just the latest with Tropical Storm Michael and kind of how they're handling things at this moment.
Yeah, well, you know, a couple of the big questions that always get asked during a storm. Number one, the bridges. Are the bridges going to close? And like he said, there'll be people on the ground, officers on the ground, monitoring the wind conditions as the next couple of days progresses through. And also schools is a big question. Of course, that, like Mark Bowen just said, that's going to be up to Bay District Schools, and they will be meeting later on today, and I should have an answer hopefully sooner than later as far as what's going to take place, because if you don't know, a lot of the schools are used for shelters. So when they activate shelters, that really does affect the schools.
Yes.
So we're going to see how that goes later on this afternoon.
Yeah, commissioners will be meeting again, and like Chief Bowen said, this is the first briefing of many to come as the storm continues to strengthen, as it's expected to become hurricane strength, and we narrow down a path. So important information there. We also stream this live on our Facebook page, so if you missed any of this, just head to our Facebook page and you can watch everything that those officials had to say. And of course, we're going to continue with updates here from Ross with the storm.
Yeah, very much so. He'll give an update in about 30 minutes, and then again we'll have a full update for you on News 13 Midday. That starts at 11 o'clock Central Time.
We'll see you then.